The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
Media Week continues on here from the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where today we're going to talk to members of the Philadelphia Eagles and get their take on the big duel between number 1 Penn State, number 2 Ohio State coming up this weekend at Rec Hall. Now talking with Kedge Barner from the Philadelphia Eagles. Big question here, big thing going on this weekend. Number 1 Penn State, number 2 Ohio State. College wrestling, who you got?
I live in Pennsylvania, so I'm going Penn State.
What are your thoughts on riding time?
On who?
Yeah, exactly. It's my thoughts exactly. Now, Wendell Small, we'll get your opinion. Ohio State, Penn State, that's a rivalry in every sport, but college wrestling, man, you've got to be tuned into this.
Penn State for sure. That was my favorite college growing up, so I'm going to go with them.
All right, on a serious note, okay, it's not just all fun and games with college wrestling. What do you guys think about, the Mall of America, the situation here? I mean, I lived in Pennsylvania for years, so the weather's not really super different, but, what's the experience been like for you guys here?
It's been fun. It's a lot of fun being here in Minnesota. Mall of America has been good to us. We checked out almost. I've probably been to 50%. Still got another 50 to go, so it's been good so far.
First time I took my mom here, you take a 6-year-old woman around a Mall of America, it takes you 4 hours to take one lap, and we didn't even hit one floor. In terms of the Minnesota Nice thing, even though you guys are coming off a rather tepid week in terms of the fans and how things went there, what's been your opinions of Minnesota Nice as it relates to basically how people live out here?
Well, for me, it's different. I have family out here. All of my mom's uncles live out here, so I've been out here quite a few times. So this is, I guess you could say, a third or fourth home for me.
When you play in Philadelphia, there's a certain expectation about how you guys are tenacious on the field, and the fans kind of match that tenacity in the stands. What has been the biggest benefit of you playing in Philadelphia as a professional athlete?
Really being a part of a true fan base. I don't think, growing up you see, the Black Hole, the Raider fans. But for me, being a part of this fan base has been truly something special because I respect honesty. And our fan base is brutally honest. They tell you when you're doing great and they tell you when you suck. So that's something that I've grown to love about our fan base.
On an opposing team, you would not want to come into Philly to play, would you?
Not at all. Not at all. To hear the things that our fans say to us, I would hate to be on an opposing team.
Wendell, circling back to you before we let you guys go, the experience of the Super Bowl on opening night, it looked like the Patriots, they're walking around there, okay, that's cool, it's like, they've been here, done that. You guys seemed really into it, phones out, selfie, Snapchat like crazy. Describe that experience walking out on that stage on Monday night.
I mean, most of the guys, it's our first time, man, and we know this doesn't happen often, so I think we're taking advantage of what the experience we're having as far as opening night, media, the fun things going on around here, and actually playing the game. We're not taking it for granted. Them guys might be more comfortable being here a couple times, but a lot of players on our team know this doesn't happen often. So we're enjoying the fun.
Good luck, and of course the count officially: Penn State 2, Ohio State nothing. Continuing on with the Philadelphia Eagles here on Media Week. Talking with Jake Elliott now. Big question, the big matchup this weekend. Number 1 Penn State, number 2 Ohio State. College wrestling, who you got?
I always heard Penn State's a pretty good wrestling school, so we'll go Penn State there.
Did you realize Lovato wrestled in high school?
Yes, I did.
So you had any scraps with him on the field when he doesn't do things right?
No, not yet. We're going to try to avoid those at all costs this week.
What's been the most, crazy thing you've experienced here since Media Week started, opening night Monday, and then, we got the weather, we got the snow. I mean, it's a cold weather sport, but, what's this experience been like for you so far?
It's been a lot of fun, just trying to take it all in as much as possible. That opening night's pretty crazy, pretty hectic, but it's a cool experience and, one that I'm glad I get.
Wendell Smallwood's talking about how you guys were just taking it in up on that stage. Everybody was taking selfies and, really engaged in the experience. I mean, what's it like walking out on that stage?
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, you walk out there and you see, all the media members, all the fans sitting up there, and, it's kind of a pinch me moment, we're at the Super Bowl, and it's pretty unbelievable.
Since I'm in a world I cover college Olympic level wrestling, I want to know, how would Nick Foles be as a high school college wrestler?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if he has the prototypical wrestler's body, but he could hold his own up there.
There was one guy you think that wasn't a wrestler, you're like, man, that guy looks like he wrestled or he should have wrestled. Who do you think it would be?
Darren Sproles.
Why is that?
Just a short, stocky guy. He can probably move around. Probably hard to get a handle on.
Speaking of Minnesota here, I'm a transplant here. I lived in Pennsylvania for years, and I moved out here. What's been the one thing from the Minnesota culture you've gotten to experience that you were looking forward to?
Honestly, just the people that we've been engaged in. Everyone's really nice, really respectful, and that's kind of what you hear on the outside. So it's cool to experience that.
Yeah, Minnesota nice is a thing. That's why I married one.
There you go.
And final thoughts as far as U.S. Bank Stadium. How you've talked about how everybody's treated you here, but the experience of being in the Mall of America. This place is huge.
Yeah, it's like it's a little indoor city. So I guess you have to have that up here in the wintertime. So it's been really cool, and just walking around, pretty great place.
King of Prussia's cool, but this place is just gigantic.
Yeah, they don't have a theme park in King of Prussia, so.
Hey, good luck.
Thank you.
Here, continuing with our Philadelphia Eagles press conference, now talking to Elijah Qualls. Big sporting event coming up this weekend, but maybe not the one you're playing in. Number 1 Penn State, number 2 Ohio State college wrestling. Who do you got?
College wrestling. Oh man, I'm gonna keep honest. I haven't been keeping up with it these past couple of years. But I actually wrestled in high school and low-key wanted to in college. And I know when I was coming out, Penn State actually had a really good program. And so, I guess I'm going to have to go with them. Yeah. When's that? When is that?
That's on Saturday.
It's on Saturday? I might have to watch that. That'll be interesting.
Now, Steph Winooski talking to the Philadelphia Eagles on their thoughts about this big sporting event coming up this weekend. Number 1 Penn State, number 2 Ohio State college wrestling. Who you got?
Penn State, obviously. Love my Penn State boys. They got a really impressive team again. They've won the national championship, 6 out of the last 7 years, something like that. So Kale's got an impressive team there. Obviously, he gets some good wrestlers, but those guys grind every day. Love the way they work and practice and just attack their aggressive style. And I'll be picking Penn State for sure.
Well, apparently, Qualls told me he was a high school wrestler, too, and we didn't know that the other night. And he's like, I think he was laying out a challenge for you on the mat. Who do you think would win, you or Qualls?
Me, hands down, for sure. No doubt about that one, yeah.
I totally fabricated that, by the way. I just wanted to get a response on it. But, what are your thoughts on riding time?
Against Qualls or in general?
In general.
General. I like it. I think it makes sense. You've seen those matches where one guy's just clearly controlling the whole match and got a significant advantage in riding time, and it ends up tied. And it's like, you know what? That guy that had the huge advantage in riding time deserved to win that match. So I do like it.
You'll be happy to know every one of your teammates I've talked to today unanimously picking Penn State on Saturday.
I'm glad. I think they're smart.
Jalen Watkins and Rasul Douglas. First of all, big sporting event coming up this weekend. Number 1 Penn State, number 2 Ohio State college wrestling. Who you got?
I don't watch Big Ten and anything. This the Big Ten guy.
Oh, gauntlet thrown down. So number 1 Penn State, number 2 Ohio State college wrestling. He doesn't want to answer because he didn't talk Big Ten anything. Who do you got?
I don't watch wrestling, so I don't got anyone.
So you
because I don't like when Malcolm Jenkins win anything. So.
Oh, another gauntlet thrown down. What do you think of that?
I agree.
So, I cover college Olympic level wrestling, hence the questions. But when you look at this experience, the Super Bowl experience, walking out on that stage on Monday night, opening night in St. Paul, is that one of those things that you're going to look back on and be like, man, that was really cool?
Hopefully we get to look back as we sit and remember what we did this week. It'll be worth it.
What's been the most valuable thing you've learned about playing in Philadelphia?
To have tough skin. And, our fan base is very involved in all of our games and everything that we do. And, they're going to tell you when you're doing wrong, but they're also going to cheer you on like no other. And it's probably the best fan base I've been a part of as far as supporting their players. Whether they do good or bad, they still support their players. And I had to learn that.
You know, being a professional athlete in college, I had a chance to travel the country and see different fan bases and such. And have you been to Minnesota before? And if not, what do you think about the entire sequence of events that led up to the Mall of America and the Super Bowl?
It's my first time in Minnesota, and it's cold. Yeah, flying over, we saw ice everywhere. We were all like, "What the?" When we flipped up our windows. But it is pretty crazy that they have the chance to play in the Super Bowl, and it would have been a home game for them. And I know it has to suck watching the team that beat them play in their stadium. They probably feel like they should be here. So,
I grew up in Virginia, and I'm a transplant here. My wife and apparently my daughters now are Vikings fans. I tried to get one of them to be a Bucs fan like me. That that wasn't working last week. But when you come into a place like Minnesota, after the fans have kind of made it a little bit more of a frenzy than it really is, you guys really don't pay attention to that as much. But what's one thing about Minnesota that's been surprising to you so far?
Well, walking through the mall, their fans are still cordial with. Yeah, I wouldn't say that.
I will. I'm the one that's got to deal with them.
Okay, I just say that they're cordial. I don't know how cordial I'll be if I got beat 38-7, and then the team's coming in my town and bombarding us with all their fans. I don't know how cordial I'll be.
Your thoughts on Minnesota as a host and the people here?
They're funny. I don't think they like us. They showed us they're still chanting Minnesota as in that they're in this game. But, I mean, it happens in football. Someone has to lose, someone has to win, and we just got the better half from that day.
So if you're keeping count, so far nobody has picked Ohio State. We have 2 non-committals here as we continue with our Penn State-Ohio State preview here from the Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. Here at Brent Selleck, Philadelphia Eagles, talking about the big sporting event that's going on this weekend. Number 1, Penn State. Number 2, Ohio State. College wrestling. Who you got?
Oh, I'll go with Penn State.
So far it's unanimous. It is absolutely unanimous. Every Philadelphia Eagles, save 2 guys who didn't want to vote for the Big Ten and anything, have picked the Eagles, the Nittany Lions. Now, talk about Minnesota here and the fan base, getting to host the Super Bowl. What's this experience been like for you?
It's been a fun experience, but I'm excited to get to practice and get to the game, man. All this other stuff is just extra. So
in that case, how many times have you answered that specific question?
This is probably about the 30th time.
How many questions have you gotten about Minnesota hot dish and lutefisk and all that other food that's up here?
I haven't gotten any.
Have you had the hot dish?
I don't know what the hot dish is.
Well, basically, it's a casserole with tater tots on top of it and ground beef, and it's very, very scrumptious.
It sounds good. Yeah.
In all seriousness, what's it like to play? To get a chance to play in the Super Bowl?
I mean, it feels good. But at the end of the day, like I keep saying, we got to win this thing. Just being here is not, doesn't get anything done for me.
Jason Bryant here now talking with Bo Allen. Now, there's a rumor that you wanted to wrestle growing up, but you couldn't make the way. But so you decided to play ice hockey.
I actually played hockey when I was growing up. I played hockey before football, basically before any other sport, until I was like 16 or so in high school. I wanted to wrestle as well, but I was too heavy. The weight limit was 285, and I was over that.
So the thought of you on skates is a frightening prospect. The thought of you on the mat is even more frightening. But I guess the first question I need to get out of the way is, who do you got this weekend, Penn State or Ohio State, number 1 versus number 2?
Oh, I don't know. We'll say Penn State.
All right. So far your teammates are unanimous in that regard. But the benefits. I mean, Wisniewski wrestled. Qual said he wrestled in high school. What are some benefits that you've seen in the league? The guys that you've seen is like, oh, that guy wrestled. Oh, that explains a lot about how his line play.
I mean, you can't say enough about it. It's a combat sport, obviously, just like football. And down in the trenches, there's a lot of, a lot of wrestling moves, similar kind of styles and tactics almost. You need to understand leverage and how to use your hands to engage, disengage, get guys off your chest, things like that. So you can always tell, especially in high school when I was playing at Wisconsin, a lot of my friends wrestled in Wisconsin, and you could tell those guys, they were a lot to deal with.
What was the one thing, I mean, so you wanted to wrestle, you're too big, but what are some things that, do you follow wrestling at all back? I mean, do you keep up with any of your old teammates that might have gone to college?
Honestly, not a ton, but I have a ton of respect for wrestlers. A lot of my friends at, Wisconsin when I was there for college were wrestlers and interact with those guys on the wrestling team, and those are a lot of tough dudes, and I have a lot of respect for those guys.
What would you imagine Barry Davis like as a college or professional football player?
I have no idea, man. I always go back to Brock Lesnar, you know, because I'm from Minnesota and he was a wrestler and obviously a UFC guy, WWE champ, stuff like that. So I think he tried out for the Vikings a little bit in camp. I don't know. I think wrestling translates really well to football, basically.
What's it mean to be back in Minnesota for this game? I'm sure you're getting that a lot here.
Yeah, I've heard that question once or twice this week. It means a lot. It's really exciting. I don't know if I could have dreamed it up any better, to be honest.
Most players dream of warm weather destinations. You're like, nah, I want to go back where it's cold.
Yeah, Minnesota is beautiful, man. Don't be afraid to check it out.
I moved here 5 years ago and moved to a beautiful place called Colorado Springs, and all of a sudden my wife's from Minnesota, so happy wife, happy life, happy Minnesotan. We've got seasons here.
Yeah, no, I think when people think about Minnesota, they think it's just cold all the time, and I'm always telling, people ask me in the middle of summer, like, oh, how cold is it in Minnesota? And I'll be like, yeah, it's 85 degrees, man. It's not what you think. But I always say that the cold winters, it makes the summers, it makes you appreciate them even more.
So you come in with an understanding of the kerfuffle between the fan bases last week. That you're sitting there. Did you kind of expect that the Minnesota fans were going to be just gracious and nice because you're from here? You're kind of expecting that.
I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I think a lot of that has been blown out of proportion. I think a lot of Minnesota fans have been incredibly gracious, and I think a lot of Philly fans at the NFC Championship game were as well. But obviously, there's a couple bad eggs that can spoil it all, and it seems like those are the people that get the most attention. So I'm not really too worried about that, to be honest with you. What's the one thing you've been looking forward to outside of the game to get back to Minnesota and do since you've arrived? So it was really nice. Yesterday I went home and was just hanging out with my parents, and it was really nice because honestly, we didn't really do anything. There's a lot going on around here, a lot of stuff going on at Mall of America, a lot of stuff at the Super Bowl, and I just went back and just chilled with my folks, and it was nice and quiet, and I loved it. That was my favorite thing I'll probably do all week. Turning back into the wrestling thing, if there's linemen out there that have aspirations of being in the NFL, playing college football, playing in the Super Bowl, even though you didn't wrestle, you saw the benefits that your friends and teammates have reaped from it. What is probably the biggest selling point you can tell for people you should, if you want to play serious college and pro football, you really need to wrestle? That tough-minded, stubborn people are successful wrestlers. You know what I mean? I think you can. When you're a wrestler, you really have to mold yourself into. You have to learn the technique. You have to cut weight. You have to do all these things that aren't natural. And I think a lot of that translates well into football.
The Short Time Wrestling Podcast is proudly outfitted by Compound Clothing. Shirts, singlets, custom gear orders, everything you need. Call up Cliff and the crew at cmpteamwear.com. First time listening? Well, you can change that by going to MattTalkOnline.com/GetShortTime to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or listen on your favorite podcatcher at MattTalkOnline.com/listen.
This show is part of the Matt Talk Podcast Network. For more wrestling podcasts, head over to MattTalkOnline.com.